The rain outside Mercy General Hospital didn't wash away the grime of the city. It just made the neon signs bleed onto the pavement. Most people looked at Maya Hayes and saw a ghost, a 40-year-old nurse with tired eyes, fraying scrubs, and a spine that seemed permanently bent in apology. Her boss called her incompetent. Her colleagues called her a pushover. They didn't see the scars running down her back, or the way she instinctively checked the structural integrity of every room she entered. They didn't know that the woman emptying bedpans was once the most lethal asset the Pentagon had ever lost. But when a 4-star general walked into the ER and dropped to one knee, the silence that followed was louder than a bomb blast. This is the story of how the ghost of Sierra 6 finally woke up. The smell of Mercy General was a specific cocktail of bleach, stale coffee, and human misery. For Maya Hayes, it was simply the smell of penance. Hayes, for God's sake, are you deaf or just stupid? The voice cracked like a whip across the triage station. Doctor Gregory Bennett, the chief resident, stood over a patient's chart. His face flushed a blotchy red. He was 32, ambitious, and possessed the kind of arrogance that only comes from having never truly feared for one's life. Maya didn't flinch. She adjusted her glasses, keeping her head lowered. I'm sorry, Doctor. The IV kit for bed 4 needed restocking. I don't care if you were knitting a sweater for an orphan, Bennett snapped, slamming the clipboard onto the counter. Mr. Henderson has been waiting for his saline drip for 10 minutes. You're a nurse, Hayes. Barely. Try to act like one, if you can't handle a simple ER shift. Maybe you should go work at a library. Somewhere quiet where you can't kill anyone with your slowness. The younger nurses, fresh out of college with bright eyes and colorful scrubs, exchanged pitying glances. Poor Maya. She was the hospital's punching bag. She took the double shifts nobody wanted, cleaned the messes everyone else avoided, and never, ever raised her voice. She was invisible. A piece of furniture in beige scrubs. It won't happen again. Dr. Bennett, Maya said softly. Her voice was a flat, monotone hum. See that it doesn't. Bennett brushed past her, checking his expensive watch. I have a dinner reservation at Le Monde in an hour. Don't make me stay late because you can't find a vein. Maya walked to the supply closet. Once the heavy door clicked shut, the performance dropped for exactly 3 seconds. Her shoulders squared, her chin lifted. The dull, watery look in her hazel eyes vanished, replaced by a predator's clarity. She inhaled deeply, counting to 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4. Tactical breathing. She looked at her reflection in the stainless steel cabinet. The grey streaks in her hair were real, but the slump was calculated. It had been 5 years since Operation Blackbriar. 5 years since Major Maya Hayes died in a helicopter crash in the Hindu Kush, leaving only this shell behind. She had promised herself she was done. No more decisions that weighed lives against political gain. Just saline drips, bandages, and the quiet humiliation of civilian life. It was safer this way. She grabbed a fresh IV kit and stepped back out, instantly resuming the persona of the timid spinster. The shift dragged on. It was a stormy Tuesday in Detroit, which meant car accidents and overdoses. By 10 o'clock at night, the rain was hammering against the glass sliding doors of the emergency room like machine gun fire. Maya was at the nurse's station, logging out. Her back ached a phantom pain from the shrapnel still embedded near her lumbar spine, but she ignored it. "You heading out?" Maya asked Sophia. a kind 20-year-old nurse who often shared her lunch with Maya. Yes, Sophia. The bus runs late tonight due to the storm, so I better hurry. You want a ride? My boyfriend is picking me up, Sophia offered. No, thank you. I enjoy the walk to the stop. It clears my head. Maya grabbed her worn canvas tote bag and headed for the automatic doors. She stepped out into the deluge. The cold rain felt good. It felt real. She pulled her coat tighter, preparing for the 3-block walk to the bus stop on 4th Avenue. She didn't make it to the curb. The sound reached her before the lights did. Even through the rain and the city noise, her ears picked it up, not the wail of an ambulance, but the low, guttural growl of heavy diesel engines. Precision engines. She froze. Her hand instinctively went to her waist, grasping for a sidearm that hadn't been there in half a decade. 3 black SUVs tore around the corner, moving in a tight V formation. They weren't police. They weren't local SWAT. They were up-armored Chevy Suburbans with run-flat tires and reinforced chassis. Government plates. They screeched to a halt directly in front of the ER entrance, blocking the ambulance bay. Doctor. Bennett ran out, waving his arms. Hey, you can't park there. This is an emergency zone. Move those vehicles immediately, or I'm calling the police. The doors of the lead and rear SUVs flew open. 6 men stepped out. They wore dark, tactical rain gear, not police uniforms. They held M4 carbines across their chests, barrels lowered but ready. They moved with fluid, synchronized efficiency, setting up a perimeter. Bennett froze, his mouth hanging open. The rain plastered his hair to his forehead. What? What is this? The middle SUV's rear door opened. A man stepped out. He was in his 60s, with hair like iron wool and a face carved from granite. He wore a dress uniform under a trench coat, but the stars on his shoulders caught the reflection of the ER lights. General Thomas Bulldog Riker, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. She was standing in the shadows of the awning, clutching her tote bag. She took a step back, trying to merge with the brick wall. He can't know, she thought. I'm dead. I'm buried in Arlington. General Riker didn't look at Dr. Bennett. He didn't look at the armed guards. His eyes scanned the entrance, sharp and hunting. General, Bennett stammered, his arrogance replaced by confusion. Sir, you can't bring weapons into a hospital. I am the attending physician, and silence, Riker said. He didn't shout. He didn't have to. His voice was like a tank rolling over gravel. Riker's gaze swept past the doctor, past the terrified nurses huddled in the doorway, and locked onto the woman in the beige coat standing in the shadows. Time seemed to suspend. The rain slowed down. Riker walked past the stunned doctor. He walked straight up to Maya. The hospital staff watched in bewilderment. Why was the general approaching the mousy, incompetent nurse Riker stopped 3 feet from her? He looked at her tired face, her cheap glasses, her slumped posture. He saw through it all. He snapped his heels together. The sound echoed off the concrete. He raised his hand in a crisp, sharp salute. Major Hayes, Riker said, his voice cracking with an emotion that terrified her more than the guns. We need you. Maya stared at him. Her cover was blown. The air in the ER bay seemed to undergo a chemical change. The woman who stood there dropped the tote bag. Her spine straightened. The look of apology vanished from her face, replaced by a cold, hard mask. She didn't return the salute. She just whispered, I'm dead. General, you buried me yourself. Resurrection is a messy business. Major. Riker replied, lowering his hand. "But I have a boy in the back of that truck who is going to die in 12 minutes if you don't scrub in. And if he dies, half the eastern seaboard dies with him." "Doctor," Bennett looked like he was having a stroke. He watched as his punching bag, the woman he had yelled at for missing an IV bag, stepped forward and looked the 4-star general in the eye with a terrifying intensity. "What is the status?" Maya asked. Her voice was different. The monotone hum was gone. It was deeper, resonant, and clipped. Command voice. "Gunshot wound to the upper left quadrant," Riker said rapidly, matching her tempo. "But that's not the problem. He's carrying a biological payload. Internal. The casing was damaged during extraction. It's leaking." Maya cursed under her breath. "Is it Chimera?" Riker nodded grimly. "Chimera 7. A collective gasp went through the nurses who were eavesdropping, though they didn't know what Chimera 7 was. They just knew that Maya Hayes had just asked a general about a biological weapon. "Clear the E! Ah!" Maya barked. She turned to the tactical team. "Secure the perimeter. No one in or out. Anyone who isn't scrubbed gets pushed back to the waiting room." Then she turned to Bennett. The doctor flinched. "Doctor." "Bennett," she said. "I need Trauma 1 prepped. I need 4 units of O negative, a hazmat containment seal for the ventilation, and a thoracic tray. Move. You." Bennett stammered. "You're a nurse. You can't give orders." Maya stepped into his personal space. She didn't look up at him. She looked through him. "Doctor, in about 30 seconds, a man is going to be wheeled in here leaking a neurotoxin that liquefies lungs. If you want to live to make your reservation at Le Monde, you will do exactly what I say. Are we clear?" Bennett nodded, terrified. He turned and ran to shout orders at the staff. "Bring him in," Maya yelled to the soldiers. The soldiers pulled a stretcher from the SUV. The man on it was young, maybe 25, gasping for air. His skin was pale, sweat beading on his forehead. He was thrashing. Maya walked alongside the stretcher as they rushed it into the ER. She looked down at the patient. "Hold on, soldier," she said. The man grabbed her wrist. His eyes were wide with panic. "Sierra," he wheezed. "They said you were a myth." "I am," Maya said. "Save your breath." They burst into Trauma 1. The chaos of the hospital fell away, replaced by the rhythm of the trauma. But this was different. This wasn't a car crash. "Cut the clothes," Maya ordered. She was already pulling on gloves, not waiting for the sterile protocol. "General, I need you out." "I'm staying," Riker said, standing by the door. "That boy is my son." The twist hit Maya like a physical blow. She paused for a fraction of a second, looking from the general to the dying boy on the table. Lieutenant David Riker. She remembered him as a teenager in the officers' club photos. Now he was a field operative, and he was dying. "If you stay quiet," Maya said. She turned to the nurses, Sophia and a few others who were staring at her in awe. "Sophia, you're on monitors. Jen, suction, Bennett, you're assisting me." "Assisting you," Bennett squeaked. "You don't have the clearance to know what we're looking for, and if you nick the capsule, we all die. I'm doing the surgery. You're holding the retractors. Do not shake." Maya grabbed the scalpel. The transformation was complete. The quiet nurse was gone. Sierra 6 was in the room. "Scalpel," she said. She made the incision. It was precise, steady, and fast. "BP is dropping," Sophia yelled. 80/50. "He's reacting to the toxin," Maya said calmly. "It's already in the bloodstream. I need the antidote. General, tell me you brought the antidote." "We have the synthesis kit," Riker said, pulling a metallic case from his coat. "But it's raw. It needs to be mixed. We didn't have a chemist." Maya's eyes narrowed behind her glasses. "Bennett, hold this retractor. If you let go, his spleen bursts." She stripped off her bloody gloves, grabbed fresh ones, and moved to the metal table where Riker had placed the case. It was a mobile chemical lab, complex and confusing to the untrained eye. "You know how to mix this?" Bennett asked, sweat pouring down his face. "You're a nurse." Maya didn't answer. Her hands flew over the vials and centrifuges. She wasn't just a medic. She was part of the Ghost unit. They were trained to be a self-contained army soldier, surgeon, chemist, engineer. "I need 2 minutes," Maya said. "He doesn't have 2 minutes," Sophia cried out. "Heart rate is erratic. V-fib. Shock him." Maya ordered, not looking up from the volatile chemicals she was mixing. One mistake, and the antidote would become a poison. "Clear!" Bennett yelled. "Thump. Still in V-fib. Again, 200 joules." Maya's hands were steady, pouring a glowing blue liquid into a syringe. It had to be heated to exactly 98.6 degrees before injection. She rolled the vial in her palms, using her body heat. "Flatline," Sophia screamed. "We lost him." "No, we didn't," Maya said. She turned, the syringe in her hand. She walked to the table. "Bennett, move." She didn't inject it into the IV. She plunged the needle directly into the young man's chest, aiming for the heart, a direct intracardiac injection. Old school. Dangerous. Necessary. She depressed the plunger. Silence filled the room. The monitor whined its high-pitched tone of death. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. Riker closed his eyes. Beep. A weak, stumbling rhythm. Beep. Beep. Sinus rhythm. Sophia breathed out, tears in her eyes. "He's back." Maya didn't celebrate. She leaned over the patient, checking the surgical site. "The capsule is still inside. The antidote just bought us an hour. We have to remove the source." She looked up at Riker. The general looked 5 years older than he had 10 minutes ago. "Good work." "Major," Riker said. "Don't thank me yet." Maya wiped her forehead with her forearm. "Why did you bring him here?" "Tom, you have Walter Reed. You have black sites." Riker's face hardened. "Because we have a leak. A mole at the highest level. If I took him to a military hospital, they'd finish the job. Mercy General was the only place off the grid. And me?" Maya asked. "You were the only asset I could trust who doesn't officially exist." Suddenly, the lights in the trauma room flickered and died. The emergency generators didn't kick in. The room was plunged into pitch blackness. "Power cut?" Bennett asked, his voice trembling in the dark. "No," Maya whispered. She reached into the darkness and grabbed a heavy surgical tray. Dumping the instruments, she held the steel tray like a shield. "They found us!" A red laser dot appeared on the chest of the unconscious Lieutenant Riker. "Get down!" Maya screamed. Glass shattered as a sniper round punched through the blackout curtains, ricocheting off the metal tray Maya had thrown over the patient's body. The quiet shift was definitely over. Glass shards crunched under Maya's knees as she scrambled across the linoleum, dragging Dr. Bennett by the collar of his lab coat. "Stay down," she hissed, pressing his face into the cold floor. "They're shooting at us." Bennett screamed, his voice pitching into hysteria. "Who is shooting at us?" Cleaners, Maya said, her eyes adjusting to the gloom. Professional hit squad. They cut the power to disable the cameras and the mag locks on the doors. General Riker was already returning fire through the broken window with a sidearm he had pulled from a shoulder holster. 3 rapid shots cracked into the rainy night. Outside, the muffled thuds of suppressed rifles answered. "Major Wright!" Riker shouted, ducking as a bullet chipped the concrete pillar beside his head. "My team is pinned down at the main entrance. We have hostiles breaching the north wing. They aren't just breaching. Tom, they're sanitizing," Maya replied. She crawled back to the stretcher where Lieutenant David Riker lay, still unconscious, the deadly capsule ticking inside him. Sophia, the young nurse, was curled in a fetal position under the instrument table, shaking violently. Maya reached out and gripped Sophia's shoulder. "Sophia, look at me." The girl looked up, eyes wide and terrified. "I need you to be brave. Can you do that?" I can't." "Yes, you can. You're a nurse at Mercy General on a Saturday night. You've seen knife fights and overdoses. This is just loud noise. Now, I need you to grab the ambu bag and keep ventilating the patient. If he stops breathing, the capsule destabilizes. Do you understand?" Sophia swallowed hard, nodded, and crawled to the head of the stretcher, her hands trembling as she squeezed the airbag. Whoosh hiss. Whoosh hiss. Maya turned to the general. "We can't stay here. This room is a fishbowl. If they have thermal optics, they'll see our heat signatures through the curtains in about 10 seconds. "Extraction?" Riker asked. "The roof is compromised," Maya said, her mind racing through the blueprints she had memorized years ago out of habit. "The lobby is a kill zone. We have to go down. The basement," Bennett whispered. "The morgue." "Lower," Maya said. "The old boiler tunnels. They connect to the subway grid. It's the only way out where they can't track us with satellite." "Lead the way, Major," Riker said. Maya grabbed a jagged shard of glass from the floor, her only weapon. "Bennett, grab the feet of the stretcher. General, take the left side. I've got point. Move on my signal." She stood up in a crouch, moving toward the heavy double doors of the trauma room. She paused, listening. Footsteps. Wet rubber soles on tile. Fast and quiet. Someone was in the hallway. Maya signaled for silence. She pressed her back against the wall next to the door. The handle turned slowly. The door eased open. The barrel of a suppressed HK-416 carbine poked through, followed by a helmeted figure clad in black tactical gear. No insignia, just a Reaper patch on the shoulder. Maya didn't hesitate. As the soldier stepped through, scanning the room to his right, Maya lunged from his left. She didn't go for the gun. She went for the neck. She jammed the shard of glass into the gap between his helmet and his Kevlar collar, simultaneously kicking the back of his knee. The man grunted, his leg buckling. Maya torqued his arm, using his own momentum to slam him face first into the doorframe. The rifle clattered to the floor before he could recover. She had him in a sleeper hold. It was brutal and efficient. 3 seconds later, he went limp. Bennett watched in horror. You killed him. He's unconscious," Maya said, stripping the unconscious man of his rifle, his sidearm, and a flashbang grenade. She checked the magazine. Full. "But if he wakes up and tries to stop us, I won't be as polite next time." She tossed the sidearm to Riker. "Do you still know how to use a Sig Sauer?" General Riker caught it, checking the chamber with a fluid motion. "Like riding a bike." "Good. Bennett, lift." They hoisted the stretcher. Maya took point with the captured rifle, moving into the hallway. The emergency lights bathed the hospital corridor in a sickly red glow. It was deserted. Patients were screaming in their rooms, confused by the blackout. But the staff had mostly fled or barricaded themselves. To the service elevator, Maya whispered. They moved quickly. The wheels of the stretcher squeaked, a sound that seemed deafening in the tension. They reached the elevator bank. Maya hit the call button, but the panel was dead. Power's cut. Remember, Bennett hissed. We're trapped on the 3rd floor. Stairs, Maya said, pointing to the fire exit. It's going to be rough on the patient, but we have no choice. As she reached for the door handle, the radio on the unconscious soldier's vest, which she had clipped to her belt, crackled to life. Team leader to entry team. Status report. The voice froze Maya's blood. It was a voice she hadn't heard in 5 years. Smooth, cultured, and utterly sociopathic. Sterling, she whispered. Riker looked at her sharply. Alexander Sterling, the CIA contractor. Ex-contractor, Maya said grimly. He went private years ago. If Sterling is running this op, they aren't here to capture David. They're here to bury the evidence. Entry team, report. Sterling's voice repeated, closer now. If you don't answer, I'm assuming you're compromised. Alpha team, converge on the trauma wing. Burn it down. We have to move, Maya said, kicking the stairwell door open. Now, the stairwell was a concrete echo chamber. Every scrape of the stretcher against the railing sounded like a thunderclap. Bennett was panting, sweat dripping off his nose onto the unconscious lieutenant's chest. Easy. Bennett, Maya warned, walking backward down the stairs, her rifle trained on the landing above. If you drop him, the shock could detonate the capsule. You keep saying that. Bennett wheezed. What is in there? A binary weapon, Riker answered, his voice strained as he carried the heavy end of the stretcher. Designed to target specific genetic markers. If it leaks, it kills everyone in a 5-mile radius who shares the target's DNA traits. But in its raw form, it kills everyone. Wonderful, Bennett groaned. Just another Saturday night. They reached the ground floor. The exit sign cast a green glow over the landing. Maya put her hand on the door bar, but stopped. Through the small reinforced glass window, she saw the lobby. It was swarming. At least 10 hostiles. They were zip-tying the security guards and setting up claymore mines at the exits. Lobby is a no-go, Maya whispered. We have to go to the sub-basement. There is no sub-basement access here, Bennett whispered back. It's on the other side of the building. Maya looked at the wall next to the stairs. It was drywall. Behind it lay the old linen chute system, decommissioned in the 90s. Bennett, she said, give me your trauma shares. What, why? Just give them to me. She holstered her rifle and grabbed the heavy shares. She jammed them into the drywall, sawing frantically. Dust filled the air. What are you doing? Riker asked, keeping one eye on the stairs above them. Improvising, she grunted. She kicked the weakened section of the wall. It crumbled, revealing a dark, rusty, vertical shaft. The linen chute. Bennett looked at her like she was insane. It drops into the laundry room in the basement. It's a 30-foot drop. It's a slide, Maya corrected. It spirals. We used to throw the interns down it for initiation. She looked at Sophia. You first. Go down and clear the landing zone. Sophia hesitated, then nodded. She climbed into the hole and vanished into the darkness. A few seconds later, a soft thump and a voice echoed up. I'm okay. It's full of old sheets. Send the boy, Maya ordered. We can't fit the stretcher, Bennett argued. We slide him, Maya said. "Wrap him in the trauma blanket like a burrito. You hold his feet, I hold his shoulders. We slide down with him." It was madness. It was desperate. It was the only way. They bundled the unconscious lieutenant. Maya went first, legs wrapped around his torso to shield him, while Bennett clung to his legs from above. They plunged into the darkness. The metal chute smelled of rust and ancient detergent. They picked up speed, spiraling down the corkscrew. Maya used her boots to brake against the sides. Burning the rubber soles, they shot out the bottom, landing in a pile of dusty, moth-eaten laundry bags. Maya rolled, absorbing the impact, keeping the lieutenant's head from hitting the concrete floor. Bennett tumbled out after them, groaning. "I think I broke my tailbone." "Walk it off," Maya snapped. She checked the lieutenant's pulse. "Still with us." They were in the old laundry facility. Giant, rusting industrial washers lined the walls like sleeping iron beasts. The air was thick and humid. "The tunnels," Maya said, pointing to a heavy iron door welded shut at the far end. "Behind that is the steam tunnel that leads to the city grid." "It's welded," Riker pointed out. "Thermite," Maya said. She reached into the tactical vest she had taken from the soldier. She pulled out a small incendiary pouch. "Standard issue for breach teams. I borrowed it." She stuck the pouch to the hinges of the iron door and pulled the pin. "Cover your eyes. F-Zist." A blinding white light seared the gloom as the thermite burned through the steel hinges like butter. The door groaned and fell inward with a heavy clang. Steam billowed out. "Let's go," Maya said. They moved into the tunnels. The heat was oppressive. Pipes hissed and clanked around them. They walked for 10 minutes, putting distance between themselves and the hospital. Suddenly, Maya stopped. She held up a fist. "What?" Riker whispered. "We're not alone," she said softly. She pointed to the floor, in the dust. There were fresh boot prints, heading toward them. They anticipated the tunnels. Riker realized. Sterling is good. "He's perfect," Maya said bitterly. "That's why I hired him for the Jakarta job." "You hired him," Bennett whispered. "I thought you were a nurse." "Focus doctor," Maya said. She looked around. They were in a junction. 3 tunnels branched off. "Which way?" Riker asked. Maya closed her eyes. She wasn't looking at a map. She was listening to the airflow, the draft. "Left," she said. "The air is fresher, leads to a grate near the river." They took the left tunnel. They moved another 100 yards when a voice echoed from the shadows ahead. "Hello, Sierra." They froze. Stepping out from behind a concrete pillar was a man in a bespoke suit that looked entirely out of place in a sewer. He held a pistol casually at his side. He was handsome, in a shark-like way, with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Alexander Sterling. Behind him, 4 heavily armed operatives emerged, weapons raised. "Sterling," Maya said, stepping in front of the stretcher. "You're looking well. The suit costs more than my house." "It does," Sterling agreed. "And you look like a soccer mum. It's a good disguise." Maya almost fooled me. Almost. "Stand down, Sterling," General Riker barked. "I am the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. You are operating on U.S. soil against a superior officer. That is treason." Sterling laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "General, please. You know how this works. The contract was issued by the Oversight Committee. You and your son have become liabilities, political loose ends." He raised his gun, pointing it at Maya. "Hand over the boy. Maya, walk away." You can go back to emptying bedpans. I'll pretend I never saw you." Maya stared at him. She calculated the odds. 4 rifles, 1 pistol. She had 1 rifle, 1 flashbang, and Riker had a sidearm. Bennett and Sophia were non-combatants. "You know I can't do that. Alex," she said. Sterling sighed. "I was hoping you'd say that. I always did like a challenge." He signaled his men. "Kill them all." Maya dropped the flashbang she had been palming. Bang! The tunnel exploded in blinding white light and a deafening roar. "Drop!" Maya screamed. She didn't fire at the men. She fired at the steam pipe running directly above Sterling's head. The high-pressure valve exploded. A jet of superheated steam blasted downward with the force of a freight train. Sterling screamed as the scalding vapor hit him, diving for cover. His men scrambled back, blinded and burned. "Run!" Maya yelled. She grabbed the front of the stretcher. Riker grabbed the back, and they sprinted through the steam, blindly charging past the writhing operatives. They burst out of the cloud and ran. They didn't stop until they saw moonlight filtering through a grate above. "Up!" Maya ordered. She climbed the ladder, shoved the grate open, and climbed out. They were in an alleyway behind a dive bar near the Detroit River. The rain was still pouring. They hauled the stretcher up. Groaning with effort, Bennett collapsed on the wet asphalt, gasping. "We made it," he wheezed. "Not yet," Maya said. She looked at the street. A black van was idling there. The window rolled down. A woman with a shaved head and tattoos covering her neck looked out. She held a shotgun. Maya raised her rifle. The woman smiled. "Get in. Sierra. The wolf sent me." Maya lowered the weapon, a rare look of relief crossing her face. "About time." She turned to the confused group. Everyone in the van. "Now." "Who is the wolf?" Bennett asked, crawling into the back of the van. "My ex-husband," Maya said, slamming the door. "And the only man Sterling is afraid of." As the van peeled away, screeching tires on the wet pavement, Maya looked back at the hospital in the distance. Blue lights were flashing. The nurse was gone. Sierra 6 was back, and she was going to war. The van was a mobile armory. The back was lined with racks of weapons that would make a warlord blush, but right now it smelled of antiseptic and fear. Maya sat on the floor of the speeding vehicle, her hands pressed against the lieutenant's chest. "Roxy!" she yelled to the driver. "Keep it steady. If we hit a pothole, this needle shears his artery. I'm driving a 3-ton van through Detroit in a monsoon." "6," the tattooed woman yelled back. "You want a smooth ride? Call an Uber." Beside Maya sat a man cleaning a jagged combat knife. He was huge, filling the cramped space with a brooding intensity. He had a thick beard and eyes that looked like they had seen the end of the world and found it boring. Jericho the Wolf Clay. "You look terrible, Maya," Jericho said, not looking up from his blade. "Civilian life made you soft. And you look like you live in a dumpster." "Jericho," Maya shot back, checking the lieutenant's vitals. "But I see you still haven't fixed that radiator leak in the van." "Priorities," Jericho grunted. He looked at Dr. Bennett, who was huddled in the corner, clutching his knees. "Who's the accountant?" "He's a doctor," Maya said. "Dr. Bennett, he's essential." Bennett looked up. His glasses fogged. "Essential, you threatened to break my fingers an hour ago." "I still might," Maya said calmly. "Jericho, where are we going?" "The foundry," Jericho said. "Old Packard plant. It's shielded." 20 minutes later, the van roared into the cavernous shell of an abandoned auto factory. They drove straight onto a freight elevator that descended into the bowels of the industrial ruin. The doors opened to reveal a high-tech command center built into the concrete skeleton of the factory. Monitors lined the walls, tracking police scanners, military frequencies, and satellite feeds. "Get him on the table," Maya ordered. They moved David Riker to a stainless steel operating table in the center of the room. The lighting here was bright, clinical, a stark contrast to the grime above. "The capsule," Maya said, stripping off her ruined coat. She was still wearing her scrubs, now stained with mud and blood. "We have to take it out. The antidote only paused the timer. If that thing breaches, this whole city becomes a graveyard." "I have a containment unit," Jericho said, pointing to a glass cylinder in the corner. "But you have to get it out without rupturing the seal. It's fused to his vague nerve." "Maya, you miss by a millimeter. He dies. You cut too deep. We all die." "I know the anatomy," Maya said. She looked at Bennett. "Scrub in. Doctor, this is the big leagues." Bennett stood up, his legs shaking. I'm an ER doctor. I stitch up drunk drivers. I don't remove biological weapons from the nervous systems of covert operatives." "You do today," Maya said. She handed him a pair of sterile gloves. "You have steady hands. Gregory, I've watched you work for 3 years. You're arrogant, lazy, and rude. But you're a damn good surgeon when you stop looking at your watch." Bennett stared at her. It was the first compliment she had ever paid him. He took the gloves. The surgery took 3 hours. It was a ballet of tension. Maya worked with a microscope and a laser scalpel, navigating the complex web of nerves around the pulsing black capsule embedded in David's chest cavity. Every breath in the room was held. Jericho stood by the containment unit, ready to seal it. General Riker watched his son, his face a mask of stoic grief. "Almost there," Maya whispered. "Clamp." Bennett handed her the micro-clamp. His hands were rock steady, severing the connection. "Now." A tiny snip echoed in the silent room. Maya lifted the capsule with a pair of long forceps. It dripped with black fluid. She moved slowly, walking it over to the glass cylinder Jericho was holding open. She dropped it in. Jericho slammed the lid and locked the seal. "Clear," Jericho breathed. The room exhaled. Maya slumped against the table, wiping sweat from her eyes. "He's stable. He'll live." General Riker walked over to her. He took her hand in both of his. "Maya, I don't know how to save it." "Tom," Maya said, her voice hard again. "We need to talk. Why did Sterling target David? Why use a biological weapon?" Riker's face darkened. He walked to the monitors and pulled up a file. "Project Acheron," Riker said. "It wasn't just a weapon. It was a kill switch for the entire command structure. David found out that the Oversight Committee was planning to use it to assassinate the President and the Cabinet during the G20 summit next week. They were going to blame a rogue nation and seize power." "A coup," Jericho said, spitting on the floor. "Classic." "Who is running it?" Maya asked. "Sterling is just the muscle." Riker tapped a key. A face appeared on the main screen, a woman with icy blonde hair, wearing a senator's pin. "Senator Caldwell," Maya said, recognizing the face from the news. "The head of the Intelligence Subcommittee." "She's the architect," Riker said, "and she has the detonator." "The detonator?" Bennett asked. "I thought you removed the weapon." "That was just one capsule," Maya explained. "Acheron is a network. There are 50 more sleeper agents infected with this thing. unknowingly walking around D.C. Right now, Caldwell has a remote trigger. If she presses it, they all activate. Thousands will die. Where is the trigger? Maya asked. She's hosting a fundraiser tonight, Riker said. At the Blackwood estate. It's a fortress, private security, surface-to-air defense, the works. Maya looked at the clock. That's in 4 hours. She looked at her reflection in the dark monitor. The quiet nurse was gone. The tired woman was gone. Jericho, she said. Open the armory. Jericho grinned, a terrifying expression. I thought you'd never ask. The Blackwood estate sat on a cliff overlooking the river, a sprawling mansion of glass and steel that looked more like a villain's lair than a home. It was surrounded by 12-foot walls and patrolled by Sterling's elite team. Inside, the gala was in full swing. Champagne flowed, diamonds sparkled, and Senator Caldwell moved through the crowd like a shark in a koi pond. Outside, in the driving rain, 3 shadows moved toward the perimeter wall. Maya was unrecognizable. She wore a black tactical suit that hugged her frame, loaded with ceramic plates. Her hair was pulled back tight. She carried a suppressed MP7 submachine gun and a bandolier of flashbangs. Jericho was beside her, carrying a heavy machine gun that looked like it belonged on a helicopter. Roxy was the 3rd shadow, carrying a sniper rifle and a laptop. General Riker is coordinating from the van with Bennett, Maya whispered into her comms. We have 20 minutes before Caldwell makes her speech. That's when she'll have the trigger on her. The wall is electrified, Roxy noted, scanning it with thermal goggles. And there are pressure sensors in the lawn. Bypass? Maya asked. Working on it. Roxy typed furiously on a wrist-mounted keypad, looping the camera feed, disabling the voltage. Go. They vaulted the wall with practiced ease. They moved through the gardens, avoiding the sweep of searchlights. 2 tangos at the terrace door, Jericho whispered. Take them, Maya ordered. Jericho moved with surprising speed for a man of his size. He slipped behind the guards. Snap, snap. 2 bodies were dragged into the bushes. We're in, Maya said. They entered the service kitchen. It was bustling with caterers. Maya and Jericho didn't hide. They walked straight through. A chef looked up, saw the heavily armed woman in black armor, and dropped a tray of hors d'oeuvres. Scream and I shoot you, Maya said casually as she walked past. Keep cooking. The chef nodded frantically, turning back to his stove. They reached the ballroom doors. Okay, Maya said. This is loud. Jericho, you take the balcony. Roxy, get to the high ground on the chandelier walkway. I'm going through the front door. That's suicide, Roxy said. No. Maya checked her magazine. That's a distraction. Inside the ballroom. Senator Caldwell tapped her glass with a spoon. The room fell silent. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice smooth as silk. Tonight, we celebrate a new era of security. Crash. The massive double doors exploded inward. Wood splinters flew across the room. The crowd screamed and dropped to the floor. Maya strode into the room, weapon raised. She didn't fire. She just stood there, a vision of death in black Kevlar. Senator Waugh. Maya's voice boomed. Your speech is cancelled. Caldwell froze. Her security detail, 4 of Sterling's men, drew their weapons. Drop them, Maya yelled. From the balcony above, Jericho unleashed a burst of fire into the ceiling. Debris rained down. She said, drop 'em. The guards hesitated. They looked at the giant with the machine gun, then at the woman in the center of the room. They lowered their guns. Who are you? Caldwell hissed, her composure cracking. "I'm the woman who cleaned up your mess," Maya said, walking toward the stage. "Hand over the trigger." Caldwell laughed nervously. "I don't know what you're talking about. This is a fundraiser." "The phone," Maya said, pointing her gun at Caldwell's clutch purse. "The secured satellite phone. Give it to me." Caldwell's hand moved to her purse, but she didn't pull out a phone. She pulled out a small, silver pistol. "Kill her!" Caldwell screamed. Suddenly, the glass windows behind the stage shattered. Sterling swung in on a rappel line, crashing through the glass like an action movie star. He landed between Maya and Caldwell, firing 2 submachine guns simultaneously. Maya dove behind a marble pillar as bullets chewed up the floor where she had been standing. "You are persistent, Sierra," Sterling yelled over the gunfire. "I have to give you that. Jericho, suppress him!" Maya yelled into her comms. Jericho opened fire from the balcony, forcing Sterling to take cover behind the heavy oak podium. The ballroom was chaos. Guests were crawling toward the exits. "Roxy, do you have the shot?" Maya asked. "Negative." Roxy's voice crackled. "Sterling is shielding the senator. I can't take the shot without hitting a civilian." Maya peeked around the pillar. Sterling was moving Caldwell toward a secure exit behind the stage. If she got into the panic room, she could detonate the Acheron network. "I'm going after them," Maya said. She broke cover, sprinting across the open floor. Sterling popped up and fired. A bullet grazed her shoulder, spinning her around, but she kept moving. She vaulted onto the stage. Sterling kicked the podium at her. Maya dodged, rolling forward. She came up with her knife drawn. Sterling dropped his empty guns and drew a long, serrated combat blade. "Finally," Sterling grinned, man to woman. "I'm not a woman right now. Alex," Maya said, assuming a fighting stance. "I'm a nurse, and it's time for your medication." They clashed. It was a blur of steel and fists. Sterling was fast, stronger than her, but Maya was fighting with a desperate fury. She blocked a slash to her throat, countered with a knee to his gut, and tried to disarm him. Sterling headbutted her. Maya stumbled back, blood running into her eye. "You're old." "Maya," Sterling taunted. "You're slow." He lunged for the killing blow. Maya didn't dodge. She stepped into the strike. The blade pierced her tactical vest, biting into her side. She gasped, the pain blinding, but she had him. She trapped his knife arm with her left hand. With her right, she pulled a syringe from her belt. "Time for your shot," she whispered. She jammed the syringe into Sterling's neck and depressed the plunger. It wasn't poison. It was a paralytic agent she had swiped from the hospital supply. Succinylcholine. Sterling's eyes went wide. He tried to pull away, but his legs gave out. He collapsed to the stage, gasping, unable to move a muscle. Maya ripped the knife out of her vest, gritting her teeth against the pain. She looked up. Caldwell was at the panic room door, keying in the code. "Senator!" Maya screamed. Caldwell turned, the satellite phone in her hand. Her thumb hovered over the execute button. "Goodbye." "Major." Caldwell sneered. Maya raised her MP7. Her vision was swimming. Her shoulder was on fire. "Roxy!" Maya yelled. "Shoot the phone from the chandelier walkway." A single shot rang out. Crack! The bullet didn't hit Caldwell. It hit the phone in her hand, shattering it into 1,000 pieces of plastic and silicon. The explosion of the battery blew Caldwell backward. She hit the wall and slid down, unconscious. Maya lowered her weapon. The room fell silent, save for the whimpering of the guests and the heavy breathing of the operatives. Jericho rappelled down from the balcony. He walked over to Sterling, who was staring up at the ceiling, paralyzed. Nice work, nurse, Jericho said, kicking Sterling's weapon away. Maya sat down heavily on the edge of the stage. She pressed her hand to her bleeding side. Is it over? She asked. For now, Jericho said. He tapped his earpiece. General, we secured the package. Acheron is offline. In the van, miles away, General Riker slumped back in his chair. Beside him, Doctor. Bennett let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for 10 years. She did it, Bennett whispered. She actually did it. Maya looked at the destruction around her. The gala was ruined. The senator was down. The super spy was paralyzed. She adjusted her glasses, which were miraculously still on her face. I'm going to need stitches, she said to the air. Bennett, get the kit ready. I'm coming home. The adrenaline crash was worse than the stab wound. In the back of the van, speeding away from the burning wreckage of the Blackwood estate, Maya finally allowed herself to feel the pain. It radiated from her left side, a hot, white spike that made her breath catch in her throat. She sat on the metal floor, her tactical vest unzipped, pressing a trauma dressing against her ribs. BP is 90/60. Doctor, Gregory Bennett said, his voice shaking but his hands steady. He was kneeling beside her, a headlamp strapped to his forehead. You've lost a lot of blood. Maya, I need to suture this now. We can't wait for the safe house. Do it, Maya gritted out. I don't have lidocaine, Bennett warned, holding a curved needle and thread. This is going to hurt. I've had worse. Maya lied. She hadn't. Not in a long time. Bennett worked quickly. The van hit a pothole, and Maya let out a sharp hiss of air, her hand gripping Jericho's massive forearm until her knuckles turned white. Jericho didn't flinch. He just watched the road, his eyes scanning the mirrors for tails. You're doing good, Doc, Jericho rumbled from the driver's seat. Keep her talking. So, Bennett stammered, tying off a stitch. Sierra 6. That's a high clearance. CIA, Special Activities. Something like that, Maya whispered, eyes closed. And the medical skills. The way you handled that thoracic surgery. Field medic training, she murmured. Followed by a surgical residency I never finished because I was deployed to Damascus. Then, retired, Bennett scoffed gently. You call tonight retired. Tonight was overtime. Bennett finished the last stitch. He taped the dressing down with professional precision. He sat back, wiping blood from his hands onto his ruined lab coat. He looked at the woman he had spent 3 years berating for being too slow, too quiet, too passive. He looked at the scars on her arms, the gun on her hip, the steel in her eyes. I'm sorry, Bennett said softly. Maya opened her eyes. For the stitching, it was adequate. No, Bennett shook his head. For everything. For how I treated you. I didn't see you. I just saw what I wanted to see. Maya offered him a weak, tired smile. That was the point. Gregory, that was the mission. Being invisible keeps you alive. The van slowed down. They had arrived at a private airfield outside the city. General Riker was waiting on the tarmac, the rotors of a Black Hawk helicopter already spinning. The side door slid open. The rain had stopped, leaving the air cold and crisp. Riker stepped forward. He looked at his son, David, who was conscious now, sitting up on the stretcher, pale but smiling. Dad, David croaked. Riker, the man of iron, broke. He hugged his son, burying his face in the young lieutenant's shoulder. It lasted only a moment, but it was enough. Riker straightened up and turned to Maya. She limped out of the van, supported by Bennett. The Senator Riker asked. "In custody?" Jericho answered, stepping out. "Roxy has the digital evidence. The Acheron network is being dismantled as we speak. Langley is already scrubbing the gala. Officially, it was a gas main explosion. Caldwell is being transferred to a black site for health reasons. And Sterling, paralyzed," Maya said. "He won't be walking for a long time. Hopefully, long enough for you to find out who hired him." Riker nodded. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. "Maya, inside this is a reinstatement offer. Full commission, colonel rank, command of your own medical unit. You can stop hiding. You can be Sierra 6 again." Maya took the envelope. She felt the weight of it, the power, the respect, the life she used to crave. She looked at the helicopter, the soldiers, the weapons. Then she looked at Dr. Bennett, shivering in his blood-stained scrubs, checking his watch because he was worried about his shift the next day. She looked at her hands. They were trembling, not from fear, but from exhaustion. She handed the envelope back to Riker. "No, thank you. General." Riker looked stunned. "Maya, you're a warrior. You just took down a shadow government in 4 hours. You can't go back to emptying bedpans." "It's not about the bedpans, Tom," Maya said softly. "It's about the patients. Tonight, I saved a life. I didn't take one. That's the only rank I care about now." She turned to Bennett. "Doctor, Bennett, our shift starts in 8 hours. We should probably get some sleep." Bennett blinked. Then a grin spread across his face. "Yes. Nurse Hayes, I believe we should." 2 weeks later, the ER at Mercy General was chaotic. A multi-car pile-up on I-94 had flooded the trauma bay. Nurses were running, monitors were beeping, and the overhead page was screaming for surgeons. Maya Hayes moved through the chaos like a calm breeze. She handed instruments before the doctors asked for them. She soothed terrified patients with a touch. She was efficient, quiet, invisible. "Hayes, where is that epinephrine?" a new resident shouted, flustered and sweating. "Right here, doctor," Maya said, pressing the syringe into his hand. "Well, hurry up next time," the resident snapped. Maya didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She just adjusted her glasses and went back to the supply cart. "Doctor." Bennett walked past. He was the attending now, confident and sharp. He heard the resident yell at Maya. He stopped. He turned to the young doctor. "Doctor Evans," Bennett said, his voice cutting through the noise. "Yes, sir." "Speak to Nurse Hayes with respect," Bennett said, his eyes locking onto Maya's for a brief second. "You have no idea who you're talking to." The resident looked confused. She's just a nurse." "Sir." Bennett smiled. A secret, knowing smile. "Exactly. She's a nurse, and she's the best damn person in this building. Carry on." Bennett walked away. Maya paused. She looked at Bennett's retreating back, then down at her clipboard. A small, genuine smile touched her lips. She wasn't Sierra 6. She wasn't a ghost. She was Maya Hayes, RN, and that was enough. The automatic doors slid open. The rain was falling again. For a second, Maya thought she saw a black SUV parked across the street, engines idling. She watched it for a heartbeat. Then, she turned her back on the darkness and walked into the light of the ER. There was work to do. And that is the story of Maya Hayes, the woman the world ignored, but the army feared. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? The quiet person serving your coffee, the janitor cleaning the hall, the nurse checking your vitals. Who were they before? What wars have they fought just to stand there in peace if this story kept you on the edge of your seat? Please hit that like button, it really helps the channel grow. And if you want more stories about hidden heroes and secret lives, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss an upload. What did you think of Dr. Bennett's transformation? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.